Across the vast, ancient dark of the universe, where galaxies drifted like forgotten kingdoms and the cold light of dying suns flickered against the silence of eternity, there existed a law so old, so absolute, and so merciless that no species alive dared to question it. The Galactic Code. Created millions of years before humanity ever learned to walk upright, the code was forged by the first civilizations, hyper-logical, emotionless beings who believed that compassion was a flaw, mercy was a weakness, and empathy was a virus that destabilized progress. Over the ages, the code evolved into a rigid doctrine that decided which worlds deserved to live and which were mathematically inefficient and marked for inevitable extinction. Planets suffering environmental collapse were denied aid. Species too primitive or too emotional were allowed to die out. Civilizations facing natural disasters were abandoned, not because they were evil, but because the code decreed that intervention would disrupt the cosmic balance. For millennia, no starfaring civilization questioned it. The galaxy had been conditioned into obedience. The logical obeyed because they believed in the code, and the emotional obeyed because they feared the consequences of defiance. And then, late to the cosmic stage, loud, chaotic, unpredictable, and beautifully irrational, came humanity. Humans did not fit into the galactic mold. They were emotional in ways the galaxy no longer understood. They loved fiercely, fought passionately, protected instinctively, and mourned deeply. Their history was a brutal tapestry of conflict, perseverance, invention, and compassion. They were a species that cried at sunsets, wrote poetry to describe pain, painted galaxies they had never seen, and carried hope even when hope had no reason to exist. When humanity first entered interstellar society, the Council, the keepers of the Galactic Code, monitored them with caution. Humans were primitive compared to the elder species, but they possessed something far more dangerous than advanced technology, a moral compass guided not by cold equations, but by empathy. This was the very force the code had been designed to suppress. And then came the moment that would transform the universe, a faint cry for help broadcast across the void. It came from Elaris, a once thriving world now dying under the weight of ecological collapse. Their water systems were poisoned, their atmosphere unstable, their crops destroyed by a cascading chemical reaction triggered centuries earlier. The Elarian population had dwindled by 40% in 30 years. Their leaders pleaded for aid, any aid, but the Council denied the request, labeling Elaris a scheduled collapse Class A. According to the code, such a species must be allowed to fall naturally. No rescue, no intervention, no exceptions. The Elarians were condemned by bureaucracy, by ancient logic, by laws designed to ensure the galaxy never again experienced the chaos of emotionally driven action. Every other advanced civilization turned away. They mourned for Elaris quietly, but not one dared challenge the code. But when the signal reached human space, something in the hearts of billions ignited, something primal, something compassionate, something deeply human. Within mere hours, Earth deployed the largest humanitarian fleet ever assembled. They did not wait for permission. They did not ask for approval. They simply acted. Thousands of vessels, medical cruisers, engineering carriers, terraforming ships, relief transports, civilian volunteers burst from human space like a tidal wave of light. Soldiers carried food instead of weapons. Doctors traveled across hundreds of light years. Scientists and engineers prepared to rebuild an entire ecosystem. Humanity didn't just send help. They sent hope. When the fleet arrived, the Ilarians wept. For the first time in their collapsing generations, ships filled with life descended onto their dying soil, bringing air purifiers, atmospheric stabilizers, water-cleansing drones, food synthesizers, and medicine that stopped plagues in days. Humans worked without rest. They dove into collapsing infrastructure, repaired decaying water cores, and held Ilarian children who had never known a world without fear. Moved by compassion, humanity transformed into something far greater than the galaxy had ever seen, a species willing to defy the universe itself for the sake of strangers. The Council panicked. Humanity's defiance threatened everything: order, control, ancient tradition. If one civilization broke the code, others might follow. So they issued a warning to humanity: withdraw immediately or be classified as a Class 1 galactic threat. The entire galaxy held its breath. No species had ever defied the Council and survived. But humanity did not retreat. Instead, more ships arrived. More volunteers signed up. Civilians begged to join the effort. Human colonies across multiple star systems donated resources, food, equipment, even personal items, blankets, letters, toys, anything that might bring comfort to a dying people. The Council, shaken by humanity's growing influence, sent the most feared force in the galaxy, the Enforcement Fleet. These were ships older than Earth's first civilizations, armed with weapons capable of cracking planets, commanded by beings who had never hesitated to eliminate disobedience. Their arrival darkened the skies of Ilaris. Their shadows stretched across human relief camps. Their weapons hummed with the power to wipe out millions instantly. The fleet commander broadcast a final ultimatum. Humanity had 10 minutes to evacuate. If they stayed, they would be annihilated. What happened next became the defining moment in galactic history. Humanity did not raise shields. They did not power weapons. They did not flee. Instead, unarmed humans, doctors, builders, soldiers, teachers, volunteers, formed a living shield around Ilarian shelters. They stood shoulder to shoulder, creating a barrier of bodies and courage. They were ready to die for people they had known for only days. The fleet commander was stunned. No species had ever chosen compassion over survival. Humanity's final transmission echoed through space. If saving lives is a crime, then we will break this law forever. If compassion is rebellion, we accept the sentence. Destroy us if you must, but we will not move. The galaxy froze. The Enforcement Fleet hesitated. Their logic could not compute this level of self-sacrifice. The Council waited for the strike, expecting humanity to be vaporized. But something ancient stirred in the hearts of the enforcement crews. Memories buried under endless obedience. For the first time in millions of years, they felt something. Guilt, empathy, shame, courage. And then, one by one, ships powered down their weapons. Captains refused to fire. Entire fleets refused to obey the code. Humanity had done the impossible. They made the galaxy feel again.
What followed after that moment was a transformation the galaxy had never imagined. A revolution not of weapons or armies, but of hearts long silenced. As the Enforcement Fleet stood down, a shockwave of emotional awakening rippled through the interstellar community. Across 1,000 worlds, citizens watched humanity's defiance broadcast in real time. Humans forming a living shield. Humans refusing to abandon strangers. Humans choosing moral duty over survival. Entire species who had lived under the shadow of the Galactic Code for eons suddenly questioned why compassion had ever been forbidden. Why had they obeyed a system designed to suppress the very thing that made life meaningful? Why had they allowed their worlds to become empty, efficient, and soulless? Protests erupted on planets where rebellion hadn't been spoken of in centuries. Philosophers revisited lost teachings. Elders remembered stories of ancient kindness. Children asked their parents why the galaxy had forgotten how to care. Humanity's act didn't just save Elaris, it reignited a universal truth. Life was more than logic. Life needed empathy. Life needed hope. But the Council was not willing to surrender its ancient power. They attempted to repair the code, reinforcing its logic through emergency legislative sessions. They declared humanity a destabilizing force. They threatened to cut off trade, isolate Earth, and punish any species that sympathized with humans. But by then, the galaxy had changed. After witnessing humanity's courage, dozens of civilizations refused to bow to the Council. Small rebellions grew into planetary movements. Civilizations that had once been silent partners in cruelty found themselves unable to defend a law that condemned innocence. The Council sent envoys to negotiate, to scold, to intimidate, but everywhere they went, beings asked the same question. If humans can risk everything for strangers, why can't we? The Council began losing its authority not because humanity destroyed it, but because humanity revealed its emptiness. Meanwhile, on Elaris, humanity worked tirelessly. They rebuilt oxygen farms, stabilized tectonic plates, restored water systems, and taught the Elarians how to maintain new eco-technology. Human children played with Elarian children in refugee shelters. Human scientists shared knowledge freely. Human medics slept on floors beside patients. The bond between the two species became a symbol of a new cosmic era, one built on unity, not cold calculation. As the Elarians slowly healed, the Council attempted one last desperate move. They summoned humanity to a trial, not a trial of evidence, but a moral trial, a spectacle meant to shame the humans, isolate them, and restore fear across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered. The Council declared humanity guilty of emotional contamination, unauthorized intervention, and violation of cosmic equilibrium. They demanded Earth dismantle its relief fleets permanently. They demanded humanity apologize publicly and accept restrictions that would forever limit their influence. The courtroom echoed with ancient authority. But then, unexpectedly, an Elarian child stepped forward, the last survivor rescued from their capital city, saved by a human soldier who had died defending their shelter. Holding a worn human jacket to their chest, the child spoke not with anger, but with trembling gratitude. They told the Council about the humans who carried them through the ruins, who shielded them from debris, who cooked meals for starving families, who stayed awake night after night, repairing machines they barely understood. The child pointed at the Council and asked, "If this compassion breaks your laws, then your laws are broken." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in recorded history, the Council had no response. The trial collapsed under the weight of truth. Within months, the Galactic Code unraveled. Civilizations withdrew support. Enforcement fleets resigned. The first civilizations, those who originally created the code, remained silent, as if ashamed of the legacy they had left behind. In the wake of the collapse, a new alliance formed, the Coalition of Living Worlds. Not a government, not an empire, but a unified vow, one that placed empathy at the center of galactic law. Humanity was offered leadership of this new era, but human representatives declined, insisting that the role should go to someone who represented the rebirth of compassion. And so, in a moment forever etched in universal memory, leadership was given to that same Elarian child, now a symbol of hope, healing, and the future. Under the coalition, worlds once isolated began sharing knowledge, medicine, and resources. Ancient enemies reconciled. Civilizations once doomed by the code were saved. The galaxy entered an age of renewal, all because one young species dared to choose kindness when everyone else chose obedience. And humanity? They did not become conquerors or tyrants. They remained what they had always been: dreamers, explorers, protectors, healers. Word spread across the universe. If a disaster struck, call the humans. If a world needed rebuilding, call the humans. If a species lost hope, call the humans. Their fleets became known not as warships, but as light carriers. Their crews were called the Starward Medics, the architects of dawn, the guardians of life. Humanity became the moral gravity of the galaxy. And in classrooms from one spiral arm to another, children now study the day the galaxy changed forever, the day humans stood unarmed before the strongest fleet in existence, the day compassion defeated law, the day the universe remembered how to feel again, the day humanity broke the galactic code not out of arrogance, but out of love. And as the stars continue to shine across the cosmic sea, one truth echoes in every corner of every world. The galaxy once feared humanity for what they might become. Now it follows humanity for what they chose to be.